Next tonight, hear the tragedy at Yellowstone National Park involving a baby bison, putting her in the hospital with significant injuries. Park rangers say it happened this morning on the north shore of Lake Yellowstone. Drastic changes have been recorded in the Yellowstone Park ecosystem, leading to its closure to protect visitors from the terrifying events observed to happen. Yellowstone National Park has closed down pending the period a lasting solution will be provided. Peter Doocy, a Fox News correspondent, has revealed more about the dangerous situation. After the many researches and observations made by scientists, we can now have a better understanding of the threats posed inside Yellowstone Park. Join us as we discuss the beautiful things in the park that make it unique and what led to its closure. Yellowstone is America's first ever national park. It was established way back in 1872, and it's called Wonderland by people for good reasons. The park is nestled in the western United States, mainly in the states of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. It is also filled with over 10,000 mesmerizing geothermal features that fill people with awe. There are hypnotic hot springs, bubbling mud pots, billowing fumaroles, and impressive geysers in the over 2 million acres of land that make it up. The hot springs inside Yellowstone are famous for their vibrant colors, and they come in all sorts of varieties. They are bodies of water that flow freely from below the surface after getting superheated by underground volcanic activity. The temperatures of these hot spring pools can vary widely, and their colors often give us a clue about their temperature. While darker colors of hot springs generally mean warmer temperatures, lighter colors can indicate cooler ones. Because Yellowstone is at a high elevation, the water boils at a higher temperature than normal, around 200 degrees Fahrenheit or 94 degrees Celsius. Mud pots are another type of geothermal feature. They consist of limited water mixed with bacteria and acidic compounds. The bacteria use hydrogen sulfide found deep underground as their energy source and turn it into sulfuric acid. This acid breaks down rocks, creating clay minerals and forming those awesome mud pots. Moving on to the fumaroles, they are steam vents that can get seriously hot, reaching temperatures up to 280 degrees Fahrenheit. Some fumaroles emit constant steam due to the limited water in their system, which quickly turns to steam as it rises to the surface. You'll recognize them by their constant hissing and sputtering sounds. There's also Yellowstone Lake, which is the largest high-altitude lake in North America, covering a whopping 130 square miles. The lake is perfect for boating, fishing, or just soaking in the serene surroundings. And if you're up for a hike, there are plenty of trails that will take you through some truly breathtaking scenes of mountains, canyons, and lush forests. However, the geysers have proven to be the most captivating of the geothermal features in the park. These are confined hot springs that shoot water intermittently with force from the ground-level vent. Yellowstone is home to about 500 of the 900 active geysers worldwide, and the most famous one is Old Faithful. This legendary geyser puts on a show every 90 minutes or so, reaching heights of up to 180 feet. There are also perpetual jets and intermittent springs in the park. Perpetual jets, like the constant geyser at Black Warrior Lake, erupt non-stop, while intermittent springs, like the Blade Pool, overflow in intervals, creating a spectacle for visitors to enjoy. Additionally, Yellowstone has nearly 300 waterfalls. It just seems like there's no end to the spectacle this park offers. Since there's an incredible array of wildlife as well, from the majestic grizzly bears and wolves to the herds of bison and elk, you'll feel like you're in the heart of a nature documentary. With all these features in Yellowstone Park, it's a shame that it has to be closed down for threatening reasons. But Peter Doocy has explained that there's no way to avoid it, and measures are being put in place to contain the threats. Among the interesting features in Yellowstone is the supervolcano lurking beneath the surface. The supervolcano in the park is classified as a caldera because it's a massive volcanic crater formed after a colossal eruption. It stretches about 45 miles in diameter. While the last major eruption happened thousands of years ago, and what's left is the remains of that ancient catastrophic event, it seems there's now a huge chance the volcano will be activated again. Why is Yellowstone Park being closed down? It's not the first time Yellowstone Park will be temporarily closed, but the reason behind it this time is quite terrifying and poses a huge risk to the whole world. It is widely known that the amazing geysers and hot springs in the park are a direct result of the supervolcano's underlying heat and geological activity, and the last major eruption of the supervolcano happened about 640,000 years ago. However, the region is far from inactive. The park was last closed down during COVID in 2020 to contain the spread of the virus. This isn't surprising since many businesses were closed down during that period too. Before then, Yellowstone was closed back in 2012 because of a wildfire known as the Alder Creek Fire. The fire started in early August 2012, and its rapid spread and potential danger prompted the authorities to take immediate action to protect both visitors and park resources. Once the situation was brought under control and the risk diminished, the park reopened gradually with affected areas potentially remaining closed for some time until they were deemed safe for public access. Other major occasions that have led to its closure in the more distant past are related to fires and at one time a flood. This time, though, it has been observed that the dormant supervolcano beneath Yellowstone is waking up from its centuries-old sleep. Although the volcano itself is in northwestern Wyoming, most of the park is made up of molten and semi-molten rock called magma. This magma flows into a deposit deep below the park's surface called a magma chamber and solidifies over time. Scientists have been keeping a close eye on this whole process for a long time. They've been studying how the magma cools and solidifies, which can cause the ground to swell or even sink. Between 2004 and 2009, the ground rose about 25 centimeters, but in 2010 it began to sink again. They have also been using a temperature recording system in the Norris Geyser Basin to monitor activity and get information about the eruptions happening in the geyser. Norris Geyser Basin is one of the oldest thermal basins in the U.S. The place is hot with thermal features that go way back, dating around 115,000 years. The temperature here can reach a mind-boggling 459 degrees Fahrenheit, just 1,000 feet below the surface. One of the marvels at the basin is the Steamboat Geyser towering at a stunning 400 feet tall. It used to erupt rarely and its eruptions were unpredictable, sometimes happening every 4 days and other times taking as long as 50 years to burst into action. But things changed in March 2018. Since then, Steamboat has been erupting as frequently as once a week. It went all out in 2018 with 32 eruptions, breaking previous records, but it outdid itself again the next year with a whopping 48 eruptions. Over the observation period in 2023, there was a new unexpected eruption on May 7th, making it the fourth unexpected one in the year. This eruption happened near the famous Old Faithful, which is known to go off regularly as earlier mentioned. However, the unexpected eruption came with a new thermal feature spewing out mud and hot water. Because of this, the authorities had to close the surrounding boardwalk for visitors' safety. But that's not all. Back in September 2022, there was another event where some eruptions brought up human debris that had been discarded over the years. Recently, the University of Utah has set up a seismograph network. The network of scientists has placed seismometers strategically throughout the park and nearby areas to detect even the tiniest earthquakes or ground tremors related to volcanic activity. By analyzing the seismic data, they can figure out where earthquakes happen, how deep they are, and how big they are. This helps them understand how the magma is moving underground and what volcanic processes might be going on. So far, about 148 earthquakes have been detected in the region this year. We can conclude that Yellowstone Park has been giving subtle signs with the recent changes happening in the area. This has led the park authorities to consider locking it up until all the concerns about an impending volcanic eruption are cleared. What makes a supervolcano more dangerous than an ordinary one? The news of possible eruptions has gotten people understandably worried about visitor safety and the delicate ecosystems in the park, and it's for good reason. Supervolcanoes are known to be much more dangerous than mild ones. This made a group of scientists discuss the difference between these two. Most volcanic eruptions happen on a smaller scale, but supervolcanoes are on a whole other level. Yellowstone Park has had massive eruptions in the past, and these eruptions are classified as VI8 in the Volcanic Explosivity Index. It is, however, not the only supervolcano in the United States. There's also the Long Valley Caldera in California near Mammoth Mountain. Therefore, California has its share of volcanic areas with molten rock beneath the surface, especially along the San Andreas Fault, an earthquake of magnitude 6 is likely to occur in this area as well too, since it's not totally inactive. Now, talking about the magnitude of the Volcanic Explosivity Index, VI, the index is like a scale that scientists use to measure how explosive and intense volcanic eruptions are. It looks at things like how high the eruption column goes, how much volcanic material is thrown out, and how long the eruption lasts. The VI scale goes from 0 to 8, with 8 being the most catastrophic and violent eruption ever. At the lower end of the scale, eruptions are pretty small and localized with limited impact beyond the nearby volcano. As the VI level goes up to 3 and 4, eruptions become more explosive and may generate taller eruption columns. This can lead to things like pyroclastic flows of hot ash, gas, and rocks, and also have significant impacts on the region around the volcano. When the VI level hits 5, that's when eruptions become large with substantial ash plumes and a wider distribution of volcanic material, also called tephra. This means impacts can be widespread, affecting a larger area surrounding the volcano and causing disruptions in transportation and the environment. But it gets worse. The higher end of the scale, which is VI 6 to 8, is where the super eruptions happen. These are the most catastrophic events, though they happen rarely. They are characterized by colossal eruption columns that can reach the stratosphere, and the volume of erupted material is massive. The effects can even have a global impact on weather patterns and cause significant environmental and social consequences. Unfortunately, the Yellowstone volcano lies in this final category. As earlier mentioned, a group of researchers published a paper in 2014, and they discovered that if an eruption were to happen, it could send about 3 feet of volcanic ash all over the Midwest. Not only that, states like Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Colorado could be buried under all that ash too, and that would be a disaster for vegetation and wildlife in the areas. Roofs would collapse under the weight of the ash, and electrical devices could be damaged. These ash particles also act as a barrier. They would reflect incoming sunlight back into space, causing a temporary cooling effect on the Earth's surface. This cooling effect can mess with the normal rainfall patterns, change how the wind blows, and cause disruptions in both regional and global climates. With changes in growing seasons and reduced crop yields, it becomes harder for farmers to grow the food we need, so it can lead to food shortages and challenges in feeding people. There's so much at stake if the Yellowstone volcano goes off beyond affecting just the park. This revelation has made some people wonder if the U.S. government is doing anything to reduce the implications of this terrifying reality. What is the U.S. government doing to protect the region? Yellowstone has been a national park for a long time, but it wasn't until the 1960s that scientists fully grasped how massive the volcano actually is, and it wasn't until the 1980s that they realized it was still very much alive and could pose a major eruption threat. However, volcanoes can be pretty unpredictable. They don't act like machines with set schedules, and that's a big concern for all of us since we cannot tell when to expect them. This makes us mostly overlook their occurrences and not take them as seriously as we should. Because it's only still a potential threat, the government,